You ever wake up and feel like the ground itself is trying to tell you something, not just a creak in the floorboards or the pipes settling, but a deep, stubborn rumble that makes your teeth buzz and your coffee cup jitter on the nightstand? That's how it all started for me. Before I even heard a sound, before the sun had fully spilled through the blinds, I knew something was off wrong, and that way you only get when you've lived on a patch of land long enough to feel it breathe. Rufus, my old red-bone hound, was already up and pacing, ears perked, nose twitching like he was tracking ghosts. He's the kind of dog who treats sunrise like an insult. So right then, I knew we had a problem. I slid out of bed, let the boards chill my feet, and the vibration hit me again, stronger, mechanical, steady, like someone was drilling right into the bones of the hill. Pulled the curtain back, and sure enough, there they were. 3 HOA trucks, orange cones like they were doing open-heart surgery. A big, ugly drill rig chomping into the hillside less than 50 feet from my bedroom window. And 3 guys in safety vests, clipboard hard hats, like they were born to ignore people. I didn't even think. Just yanked on my jeans, boots, flannel, didn't care if the neighbors saw my undershirt and stormed out the door, Rufus hot on my heels, barking like the world needed warning. "Hey," I yelled, arm in the air. "What in God's name are you doing?" One guy with a radio pressed to his shoulder tells me, "Authorized HOA development site, sir. You'll have to step back." "Step back?" I almost laughed. "You're drilling into an unstable slope. That ridge holds a glacial slip face. It's compromised. I've lived here 28 years. I know what's under your feet better than you do." He just shrugged, drainage project sign permits all above board. Tapped his clipboard like it was the Bible. "Not if you trigger a landslide," I snapped back, but he just looked past me. Not a care in the world. "Take it up with the board." Right on cue, here she comes. Karen Riston. Every HOA's got one, ours just came with the name. Platinum blonde bob red trenchcoat, clipboard, marching across the gravel like she's hosting the Macy's parade. "Mr. Leary," she called, her voice all honey and steel. "Please don't interfere. We've already approved phase 2 of the beautification project. You were notified." I almost choked. "Notified? You mean a crumpled newsletter stuffed under an ad for gutter repair?" She didn't even blink. "We followed protocol." I glared at her as the drill bit groaned, spitting up gray dust. "You're drilling into fractured shale. That hill's been dry-locked for decades. You rupture a vein and the whole slope could come down." She just rolled her eyes. "If that were true, maybe you should have mentioned it sooner." I laughed bitter. "I did 3 times. 2 meetings and a certified letter." She just walked away. I stood there watching that drill eat into the hill that cradled every memory I had. My wife and I bought this place in '94, back when the HOA was 3 retirees and a folding table. We planted maples, raised chickens, put roots down. Now they were treating it like a spreadsheet with a bottom line. I went back inside, hands shaking, and rifled through my old files, maps, soil reports, geological surveys. I wasn't just another crank. I'd worked with the North Carolina Geotechnical Task Force back in the day. I found my old slope assessment flagged high-risk displacement, the exact spot they were drilling. Called the county voicemail. Called again. Left messages. Nothing. That dread in your chest, the slow burn that tells you you're gonna have to watch something break before anyone lifts a finger. That night, bourbon in hand, I sat on the back porch while Rufus curled at my feet, watching floodlights blink in the distance. The drill rig looked like a spear rammed through the spine of the ridge. "They don't know what they're waking up," I muttered. But I did. This ground was sleeping clay rock, old bones pressure built up under the arrogance of people who think bylaws beat gravity. And sooner or later the earth remembers. 2 days in, they brought in a second rig. Faster, louder, hungrier. Still no consultant, still no common sense. I dug out my old maps, overlays, color-coded every danger zone, wrote a formal notice-attached map, soil reports, flagged every risk. 10 copies, delivered one to the HOA Dropbox, certified, mailed a couple, emailed the rest, handed one to Karen during their brunch. She just sniffed the envelope. More doomsday pamphlets. Mr. Leary, I stared her down. It's a formal geological warning from a licensed consultant. With all due respect, you retired. After I watched a family get buried alive in Boone when developers ignored warnings like this, that made her flinch just for a heartbeat. That night a storm rolled in, just drizzle, but enough. Enough to saturate, enough to tip the balance. Couldn't sleep. Watched my seismograph app spike every time they hit bedrock. By 2 a.m., there's a knock. It's Glenn, my neighbor Army vet, built like a linebacker. You feel that, he asked? They're cutting into the limestone cap. He frowned. You think it's safe? No. And they've been told. He nodded. One of the trucks almost slid earlier. You should move your truck. He didn't argue. Saturday fog, thick Rufus pacing, wouldn't eat. At 8:14, the power blinked. At 8:19, I heard shouting. Grabbed my coat folder of warnings, flash drive boots, stepped outside. Neighbors gathered, Glenn furious. They moved the rig right over the wetland curve. I cursed. Karen on the phone, still pretending this is about landscaping. I marched right up. Stop the drilling or someone gets buried. She didn't even look at me. If you threaten the board, we'll have to explore legal recourse. Please do. I'd love discovery. She looked rattled for once, but turned and shouted for things to keep moving. That was the last time I warned them. You can't save people who treat ignorance like armor. You can't reason with folks who think HOA rules outrank the laws of physics. Went home, dug out my wife's old files, the collapse at Boone, the evidence they'd ignored. Sat on the porch, everything tense. Then it started. Not a roar, not yet. A pop, then a groan, then crack. Rufus bolted, barking. And then thunder under my feet. The hill collapsed. Mud boulders, trees, whole ridge surged, tore through the rigs like toys. Screams, metal crunching, then nothing. Real silence. The kind that doesn't leave room for denial. Karen was still somewhere on the ridge, shrieking into her phone. I didn't feel triumph, just a sick old grief. I'd seen this before. I'd tried to stop it. Next morning, news vans, deputies, chaos, neighbors whispering, nobody looking at me. Glenn came over, voice rough. They pulled 2 trucks, already more under there maybe. They're calling it an act of nature. Of course they are. By noon, Karen was giving a statement to Channel 8, tragedy unforeseen, HOA will cooperate. Didn't mention me or the warnings. I grabbed my folder, walked straight past the cameras, handed it to the reporter. This didn't come out of nowhere. They were warned. With evidence. From someone who's seen it before. Karen hissed. Not the time. No. Karen, this is exactly the time. Your rigs are buried under 10 feet of mud. This is the time to talk about responsibility. The camera caught everything. Later, county inspectors cordoned the ridge. A young tech shook his head at my maps. Can't believe they ignored it. The bluff's still shifting. Might lose the clubhouse and half the trail. The land wasn't done talking. That night couldn't sleep. Guilt gnawing again, the kind you bury for years until disaster digs it back up. Thought about Boone, about Anna. I opened the old photos, her car buried in clay scarf still on the mirror. I swore I wouldn't let that happen again. Not here. Not on my watch. Called Jack Tinley, environmental litigator, old friend. Is it happening again? He asked. It already did. He said, send me everything. So I did. Stayed up scanning, emailing, naming files. This wasn't evidence. It was the record of willful negligence. 2 nights later, another slide, the upper ridge this time. Clubhouse lights still on when the ground vanished, tilted, then slid, gone. Screams, water mains, bursting phones out. Everyone watching as the hill erased everything they'd built. Fire trucks, deputies, National Guard. It was too late. 2 dead security guard and the HOA treasurer. I hadn't liked Brad, but he hadn't deserved this. The neighborhood was in shock. The next morning, Jack showed up. That'll change when the lawsuits start hitting, he said. Handed him a USB with everything surveys, emails, minutes where my warnings were dismissed. They knew he said. They didn't care. Channel 8 wanted an interview. I told them everything. Why'd I try so hard? Because I buried my wife under a landslide just like that. I swore no one else would have to. The story went viral. Within a week, county investigation board resignations, the HOA website vanished. Karen hired a lawyer, but the ground had already told the truth. Depositions started. I laid out every warning, every survey, every ignored letter. Jack hit them with state code duty to ensure environmental compliance. They'd failed. Then came the real twist. Internal emails subpoenaed showed Karen herself had dismissed board concerns, wrote, "Geological input is appreciated, but ultimately advisory. We'll deal with complaints after." That memo in court was a nuke. Judge froze all HOA projects, ordered a forensic audit. What they found: no bid contracts, inflated invoices, missing funds. The Nature Trail project ballooned from $32K to $180K. Poof, no paper trail. Linda Shaw, the secretary, finally broke down under oath. We knew. We called him Mudslide Mike. I wasn't even mad. People fold under pressure just like slopes. Lawsuits rolled in: wrongful death, property damage, missing funds. The insurance company bailed, citing non-disclosure of risk. HOA broke board resigned, Karen clinging on, but even she couldn't survive subpoenas and foreclosure. The mighty president reduced to a dark, empty house. We turned the ruined hill into a memorial, not a park. Planted native trees, put up a bench, no plaque for me, just a line, in honor of those who listen to the land. The earth remembers, and so do we. Kids from the high school hung photos along the fence, notes that read, "He warned us. Now we plant with caution, not control." I walk the perimeter every morning. Rufus at my side, the warning signs up a grove where the clubhouse once stood. 3 months later, Sandstone Ridge was changed. Gone were the banners, the fines, the scripted lawns. Now there was laughter, wild grass, and a scar that wouldn't fade soon. I never wanted to be a hero. Wasn't one. Just a man who listened to the mountain and shouted loud enough for the world to hear. I spoke at city council, pushed for real change, a landslide early warning system, Anna's Ridge community-funded kids learning what real stewardship means. The lawsuits kept coming, but the silence was broken. Other towns called, wanting to learn, wanting the truth, not PR, not spin. Jack and I started a nonprofit, Ground Truth, offering real independent assessments to any community willing to listen. No contracts, no politics, just the truth, plain and stubborn as bedrock. So here's what I'll leave you with. Land isn't owned, it's witnessed, cared for, remembered. And those who refuse to listen will always be forced to hear one way or another. I'm no warrior, no prophet, just a man who saw what silence can cost and chose to make noise. The mountain speaks, and sometimes finally people listen. Now tell me this, when your own ground starts to shake, will you speak up before it's too late? Or wait until the hill decides to answer for you? Let me know below. Share your own stories. What would you have done if it was your home, your land? Let's talk about justice, about who's really responsible when everything starts to fall. And if you've ever stood up or wish you had, dropped your story in the comments. Because sometimes the only way to stop a landslide is to make a little noise first.